Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the delicate balance between living an intentional life and one where we let go, one where we relax into life. So there's a balance there, isn't there, that we need to achieve. Life is short, and I love the Latin expression memento mori, which means, the translation is, remember that you shall die. And I use it as a tool to help me remember and to motivate me toward what I really want in life. And that's such a great tool, I find, to remember your mortality. So when we're talking about mortality, there was a study in the journal in Research in Personality in 2022, and it showed that when we think often about our mortality, it brings us more focus and it zones into what we really want in life. So I find that so useful. Lately, I've been looking and leafing through this book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. And it's a time management book, but it talks about how if we live a lifespan of 80 years old, we have essentially 4,000 weeks in which to live that life. Wow, that's sobering, isn't it? And then if we subtracted the days whereby we sleep and we maintain our body and eat and all those other things that we do in our life, then it boils it down to even more of a narrow area of time where we get to live an intentional life. So that's a little sobering, I think. So what I wanted to talk about today was the balance between intentionality and letting go in your life and allowing. So the first part is I found that in my coaching practice, I've been coaching clients since 2009. I've coached hundreds of people, and I find that most of my clients don't really know what they want. That's kind of funny, I think, in that we think we know what we want. It's easier to figure out what we don't want, but to figure out what we do want is a little more challenging. So I developed my own personal tool to help us figure out what we want. And I call it the Kenny Boy Value Tool, KBVT. I like acronyms. I like making up acronyms just for fun. KBVT. And the tool is essentially this. You get out a doc on your computer, a Google Doc or a word processing document, and you start doing a brain dump every day about what you want for 10 days. Write down everything you can think about every day about what you want. Maybe you want a thinner waist. Maybe you want greater abundance, more financial security. Maybe you want a house. Maybe you want a partner. Whatever. Make a big brain dump and stream of consciousness. That's what you do. You write it all out, get it all out every day. Force yourself to do this as much as you can for 10 days. Then once that's complete, you take that brain dump of 10 days worth of I wants, and you put them into ChatGPT or Gemini or another artificial intelligence large language model called Claude, if you like that. And you can take that and put it into the artificial intelligence, and you ask, you prompt, and you say, okay, be my best coach. Identify my top 10 wants. And it'll organize it and summarize it and create a list of 10 wants for you, organized in priority. Then you ask it, say, hey, now that I got my 10 wants, organize my top 5 values, top 5 values. Because the things you want generally are what you value or what you consider most important. And once you do that, then you could even go further and say, hey, give me an action step plan, a daily action step plan, in order for me to realize these wants or realize these values. And I found it so useful. I did that for me, and my values came up to top ones were service, creativity, self-expression, financial freedom, health, and so on. And it was a really great tool I found in order for me to identify exactly what I want. Because sometimes, you know, when you think about values, you think, okay, I want freedom. Well, that's really esoteric. That's really subjective. It's not specific enough. So in my case, I wanted financial freedom. That was more specific. In my case, I wanted to be free from societal constraints and expectations. That was cool. I wanted adventure. I wanted freedom. So that identified it for me. Now, if you don't want to go into artificial intelligence and identify your top 10 wants, you don't have to. You can just take the document, look at it, categorize each section: finances, health, relationships, so on, and look at patterns and see where the patterns are in your life. What are my wants and where are the patterns? And as you do that, you'll become more aware of your time, because we all know time is so precious, and you can take action on that map. You can create a map, a value map, an I want map, and identify and then commit to what you really want. And that's a really, really great tool. I do it for my clients, and it really helps them. So now, it's interesting, floating on this hard rock ball of Earth called Gaia in the planetary system, in the galaxy, and I'm sitting here, and over the years of my contemplative life and self-reflective life, I've noticed that duality, or truth, is somewhat paradoxical, in that you're sitting on the edge of the coin, yet you can see the heads or tails side of each side of the coin, and you can look at it and you go, that the head side has a lot of truth to it, and the tail side also has a lot of truth. So what I've come to ascertain and understand is that both are true, and the object-subject split is both true. The self and the other is both true. That's why I like the philosophy of non-dualism, oneness, where we're all connected. And despite the apparent display of this movie called life, this apparent dream called life, everything is connected, right? So as I think about this, I think about that statement and the quote by Lao Tzu. And it's a great little line. It says, "Nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished." Let that sink in for a minute. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. So the other day, I decided to go for a walk. So I took a little pathway to the ocean, to Tampa Bay, and I walked over there, and I saw some people sunbathing, so I decided to take my shoes off. Took my shoes off, put my feet in the water, and I noticed my body, my rhythm of my body started to really relax and kind of like orient itself to the waves, to the ebb and flow of the tides. And that felt really good. And I walked along the beach and absorbed the sun and felt the rhythm of nature, if you will. And I noticed that it's so important for us to take some time to take our shoes off and put our feet in the lawn and get connected with Mother Earth and reground ourselves in the rhythm of nature. Because there's this concept of Wu Wei. It's a Chinese philosophy based in Taoism, like 600 BC. And the concept of Wu Wei is, you might have heard of it, it's doing without doing. Now that sounds like an interesting conundrum, huh? Doing without doing, wow. Or effortless action. I love that idea. I wrote an ebook about effortless action, in fact. But to notice that life will work out on its own. Life is living you rather than you living life. That's an interesting idea, in that you can rest into your existence and rest into the reality and feel like, you know what? Everything's going to work out, because most of the time we worry, and most of those worries don't come to fruition. And there's been research on that as well. So it's kind of laughable, isn't it? We worry about all these things, but they don't really happen. So getting into what wants to happen, that's a really good feeling. And that's Wu Wei, doing without doing. Now, I love that concept. Now, I remember Steve Jobs, the famous tech entrepreneur who invented the iPhone. He would wake up in the morning and he had a practice. And he asked himself this question. He said, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do? And if the answer is no, over a series of days. He would stop doing that. So it's important to realize that life is always changing, it's impermanent, and that things change, and you might start on a pathway towards your intention, but then, things change. You change. You decide, that's no longer fun for me. Like for me, recording these videos and also teaching meditation is fun. So I keep doing it. But if it wasn't fun, I would stop. So that takes a great deal of self-awareness. And so the delicate balance between living an intentional life, identifying your wants and your values, versus letting go and practicing Wu Wei, being simple, having minimalism, having less thought in your mind. So another quick story is I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the interviewer was talking to creative entrepreneurs like moi, and he asked the question, so if you had to create a service or a product, what would you create? What do you want to see in the world? Wow, I wrote that down in my journal. What do I want to see in the world? That was interesting. You might ask yourself that question. You don't have to create a service or a product, but you might want to see it in terms of who you are or who you become. It's like Gandhi's quote, right? Be the change you want to see. So what would I want to see in the world? And I immediately thought of my website, Clarity Mind, that I made back in 2009. It hasn't changed. I want clarity of mind. I want less thinking and more being. And with the topic of meditation and mindfulness, and with the digital distraction that we're all just being bombarded with our phones and with artificial intelligence and all these things that are coming at us that are changing, and disruption that's occurring in our environment, we have to find some groundedness, right? So take your shoes off, go walk in the lawn, walk on the beach, get centered on planet Gaia, and feel the rhythm of nature as it takes you down into a deeper level of understanding, a deeper level of harmony, a deeper level of being one with all that is. So let's practice a little meditation together and take a pause and be still and realize that we are the clarity we seek. We are the love we seek. We are that which we seek. We're already there. We made it. Fantastic. I'm here. We're present. And presence is such a big word, isn't it? I love the word presence because it takes us into the present moment. Eckhart Tolle talks about presence, of course. But to be present, what a quality, right? How many people are actually present with you when you're with them? Where you're really there, right? You're alert and you're with them, you're listening to them, and you're present with them, and you're intentional with them, and you're attentive and you're mindful with them. Wow, that's such a beautiful concept, it's not even a concept, it's a reality where you're in the moment, in the present moment. So let's go to the present moment and live in it for a while, and breathe in it, and pause in it, and feel what it's like to be present in our being, in our body. So let's begin by some breathing exercises. Now, there's more research all the time about breathing and how important oxygenating the system is, and how that can really create longevity for you. I was reading some documents the other day about some breathing exercises purportedly bringing you 7 years longevity, adding 7 more years to your life. That's pretty cool. So we'll begin by bringing the attention to the breath, and take your first conscious breath of the day. Count in, breathing in for 4 counts.